Hey, how's it going, guys? Mr. Boss for the win here, and in today's Grand Theft Auto 5 video, we're going to be looking at some more examples of what high-end exotic style supercars could look like in a future Grand Theft Auto Online update. This is one that Rockstar have teased on their newswire that I've talked about in previous videos. This is the high-level, high-risk, vehicle-based business ventures. Now, once again, I've shown you guys a few examples of this in the past coming from XXII. I'll put those on the screen right now so you can take a look at some of the previous ones we looked at. We're not going to go over them too much, but they're like the Neptune 01, the Monroe Arton RS, and even a crazy injection monster version of the BF injection. And that's pretty cool. We looked at a new exotic style of car, modified versions of existing supercars in the game. So I thought that was really awesome. There was also two more images that he added as well. Here's kind of what this would look like if you were to use those big stockade vehicles to kind of export the cars themselves. So once again, that's pretty cool. There was also an artwork created for it. But what we're going to be looking at today are more examples of exotic sports cars and even coupes and high-end vehicles that we could be using to basically export in this update, because the thing that got me the most was high-level, high-risk, vehicle-based business ventures to spring up. So I thought that word was very interesting. Spring up across Los Santos and Blaine County soon. So what I really think this is going to be is almost a modified free mode event. So let's say you're driving around in the lobby and then all of a sudden there's a global message displayed that says a new exotic supercar has just been imported into Los Santos from Liberty City. Be the first one to get it, bring it to the chop shop, and you'll be the one to claim the reward. So as soon as you saw that, I feel like everyone would bolt to that location, try to get it as quickly as they could, get to the chop shop, and try and get the reward. That's kind of what it sounds like to me, and because of that, I think the examples we're going to be looking at today would be perfect and would also be super cool. And what that could also allow Rockstar to do is use that as kind of a way to unlock new vehicles. So unlike previous DLCs where they're just available on websites, the only way to unlock the vehicle would be to somehow grab it from one of these rare events, one of the high-risk, high-reward drops or imports or whatever it's going to be. That's just an example and it's just an idea. But let's not waste any more time. Let's talk about some of them right now. The first of which is the Anis Elegy RH8S. So this would be a modified version of the Elegy that we already have in the game right now. And you can see just how awesome this looks. Looks to be an enhanced version of the spoiler. What looks to be a wider body style car. You can see the extremely unique looking headlights, as well as that awesome kind of camo livery right there, which looks amazing, as well as some new modified blue wheels. So once again, that's one of the cool things we talked about in the other video is enhancements to already existing cars in the game. And that's why Rockstar could consider them imports from another GTA city like Liberty City, Vice City, San Fierro, and that's how they could explain them having all these different looks, mods, and customization. So I thought that would be pretty cool. That is the Anis Elegy RH8S. If we move on to another vehicle here, you can see the Karen Kuruma GTX. This is once again another sports car, and this looks to be a sportier version of the Kuruma, which we received from the Heist update. You can see there's definitely some more upgrades to the bumper and to the fender as well, plus a nice sporty spoiler added as well. The Kuruma, one of the most underrated cars in the game, so that would be pretty cool if they made it into a fancy version like this, that being the GTX. And here's another version of it right here. You can see the very, very fancy fog lights down at the bottom, and also really cool design how the spoiler in this image right here looks to be of a different color than the rest of the body of the car, which is kind of a feature we don't really see all that often in Grand Theft Auto Online right now, even if we do have one. So that's pretty cool. That's the Kuruma GTX right there. Let's move on to another vehicle. You can see the Debauche Sunrise, and this is a brand new vehicle. So the first two vehicles we looked at were just modified versions of cars we already have in the game. This is a brand new vehicle, the Debauche Sunrise sports car. Look how menacing this thing looks. I know it's kind of funky because of the kind of pinkish carbon fiber color, but this just looks incredible. Look at all the customization options. I see options for the bumper and the fender, the hood. Looks like a wide body option. You can see the vents on the side of the car, the side skirts as well, the spoiler, the roof scoop on the top. This looks like an incredible vehicle. Almost kind of looks more like a supercar than a sports car, but nonetheless, I still think that would be an awesome vehicle if that was just randomly imported into Los Santos. And once again, guys, keep in mind, this is a concept, but could give us a great idea of how vehicles will ultimately end up working with this update. So that's pretty cool right there. Once again, that is the Dubache Sunrise. Let's move on to another vehicle right here. We can see the Dinka ZR 350 Pro. Now, this is a supercar, which looks awesome, and I originally saw this and I was like, that looks like a crazy version of the X80 Proto. That's kind of what it reminded me of, but this one looks awesome as well, the Dinka ZR 350 Pro. You can see just how menacing that front grille looks. It almost looks like it's smiling at you in a very creepy way, so that's pretty awesome. You can also see what looks to be pretty fancy gull wing doors. They would open straight from the roof, so that looks pretty amazing. You can see those menacing looking vents on the side, and this is just absolutely so cool. That really cool two-tone paint job where you've got the brown on the hull of the car, and then on the doors and towards the bottom you see that bright shiny red. So that'd be pretty cool. Like I said, I wonder if that would challenge the X80 Proto as one of the most menacing but also one of the most expensive vehicles in the game. So that one is pretty awesome. Once again, it is the Dinka ZR 350 Pro. Let's move on to another vehicle. We can see the Declasse Merit Custom, which is another sports car. Our first four-door one of this, I guess, little concept update right here. This one is pretty crazy. Definitely has a lot of customizations on the front. You can see some crazy bumper designs right there. What looks to be some wide-body arch modifications also to the vehicle, which looks pretty outstanding. Again, I don't really know what car this reminded me of, but again, this could be one of the maybe lower-end import cars that we look at, even though it is a sports car, comes from the Declasse family, the Merit Custom right there in that bright orange, which does look pretty amazing, so that's pretty cool. Let's move on to another one. We can see this one right here is the Coil Voltic Ranger, which becomes a coupe car. So that's kind of confusing to me because I always thought the Voltic was a supercar. In fact, I know it's a supercar, so I'm not sure what the Ranger part of this does to make it into a coupe car. But nonetheless, it looks like it has some very interesting modifications on it, including a pretty insane, what looks to be like roll cage and chassis update, a very unique and interesting spoiler. Also, some pretty funky modifications on the front of the car as well. So like I said, I'm not sure why this vehicle was turned into a coupe, but it is in this concept, but it's pretty cool. That's the Coil Voltic Ranger. The Voltic is one of the most like underrated cars in the game. I think people kind of turned off by it by the fact that it's electric, but I just don't think it gets a lot of love because it's in the supercar category. So maybe if it was moved to another one, might see a little bit more love there, so that's pretty awesome. And finally, last but not least today, rounding it up, it would be another police vehicle. This one is the Albany Police Patrol, and you can see this is a super kind of retro, old school version of a police patrol cruiser car, which looks awesome. You can see the lights on the top and on the front, the classic two-tone blue and kind of chrome paint job, which looks really awesome, that black brush guard on the front. And I wish we could get some pretty cool police vehicles in the game, and this wouldn't be a shock if Rockstar did something like that. They've introduced non-storable police cars for us and online. Many of the single-player only police cars have started showing up in the biker missions. Undercover cop cars have started showing up in the biker missions as well. So this right here would certainly not be a surprise if they introduce something like that. But at the end of the day, I think this looks absolutely cool. So in total, that's about 11 vehicles that we've looked at that could be new variants and various models that we could see added in this high-level, high-risk, vehicle-based business venture update. And like I said, I've got a ton of ideas for ultimately how this could work with the vehicles, whether they're exotic, whether they're called imports, whether they're just custom versions of the one we've seen in game. And to me, that seems like it might be the most likely because with the lowrider stuff, instead of naming them new vehicles, Rockstar really just called them, the Buccaneer Custom. Although they could add some pretty unique and fun names, very similarly to what they did with the January 2016 update, where Rockstar introduced the Banshee and the Sultan into Benny's shop. You guys remember they turned the Sultan into the Sultan RS, which really wasn't all that creative because the Sultan RS was still written on the side of the car. But the Banshee 900R was definitely an upgrade in the name. And like I said, they could do the exact same thing here that they've done with the other vehicles like the RH8S, the GTX Kuruma. Obviously, you have different versions like the Dinka ZR 350. There's a lot of other ones like the Voltic Ranger. I wish they did that instead of just calling them custom versions. But what they might end up doing is calling them import versions or exotic versions. Like I said, I'm really not too sure. We know so little about this update, but the concept is so exciting because there's so many things that Rockstar haven't tackled just with this simple sentence. They've never really talked about something being high level. The only thing that have really been locked to high levels have been like certain vehicles like the Dubsta 6x6. They've also never really mentioned anything that's been ultra high risky, and they've certainly not had an entire DLC based around businesses regarding vehicles. And obviously the fact that it's going to be happening in Los Santos and Blaine County too, the emphasis on that is very, very important. So like I said, those were just some pretty awesome examples of how I think this DLC is going to work, how you could possibly import exotic style vehicles, break them down in a chop shop, and then sell them, thus giving you the ability to unlock them in online. Then you'd be able to do all sorts of customization, bring them into your garage just like normal. So I think this is pretty awesome. Once again, this was created by XXII. I'll leave a link to his Twitter in the description. Very important that, once again, this is a concept, nothing obviously official here, but it looks so real. So kudos to him because it does look incredibly awesome. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comment section down below. Also, which one of these vehicles that we looked at today do you think is most exciting? Honestly, I think that upgraded version of the Elegy looks amazing. I think the Dubache Sunrise looks pretty great too. And I know a lot of you guys are probably excited about that crazy looking Dinka ZR350 Pro. But as always, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. If you guys did go on to enjoy this video though, a like rating would of course be awesome. And also subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are new or you like daily GTA 5 videos like this. Without the way, guys, like I said, thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video.